Raids are fucking toxic, can't you see? And the leader of the gatekeepers is Nike DNT.
Anti-Raid Rants was recorded in front of a toxic and delusional audience.
Hey guys, welcome to a special edition of Anti-Raid Rants. This is a Nike edition where I find someone who is incredibly hostile to me personally, and I read their comment and then discuss. So let's go ahead with the reading, and then I will rebut this gentleman. Well, in fairness, and to say it politely, Nike is a bit of an egomaniac. He doesn't exactly have a likable character, to say the least. And it's nothing to do with elitism in Guild Wars 2, but everything to do with his character as a human being. Yeah, I acknowledge that he's a very good player, especially when you're talking about mechanical ability, and I would definitely consider him the authority on dungeons. I would even say he's one of the best warriors in Guild Wars 2, bested only by Goku and possibly Grimjacky. But I would, however, definitely not call him the authority on raids, fractals, or open world, nor would I say he is anything better than experienced on any other class than warrior. He still thinks of himself as a god in every area he has little to no credibility for. It is evident in his presentation if you've never had the pleasure of dealing with him. I think to say that Nike deserves a good clip around the ears is probably one of the nicest things a person can say to him right now. I also think it's a little unfair to Arcade to not acknowledge that what he is feeling about is anything less than justifiable. It's unfair to hold Arcade, a random player, accountable to a higher personal standard than we do a public figure and representative for the game like Nike. Oh, where to begin with this? Holy shit. Okay, Nike is a bit of an egomaniac. Okay, maybe. I don't think so. I think I'm well aware of what my limitations are as a player and as a person in life. I don't know what you know about me. I don't. All you know about me is what I present on my streams and in my YouTube videos. I don't think you know me in real life. So I think that's a bit much of a conclusion. Nor do I think you are qualified professionally to make such a diagnosis. I just don't think that's a valid criticism. One, because I don't think you're qualified to make it, and second, I don't think it's even true. Has anyone, for example, ever heard me say that I'm the best player in the game? Or has anyone heard me say any other over-the-top statements like I'm the best player on NA? Or has anyone ever heard me make a statement like I'm the greatest thing that's ever happened to Guild Wars 2? Those are the type of statements you would expect from someone who is an egomaniac. And no such statement has ever been said by me. Or maybe here's another example. I'm the best Weaver player in Guild Wars 2. Has anyone ever heard me say anything like that? I don't think so. That's what you'd expect from someone who is a delusional egomaniac, which I don't think I say anything like that. Okay, moving on. He doesn't have a likable character, to say the least. See, it's interesting that you say that, because a lot of people do like me. I don't know about your personal life, but I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends even in the Guild Wars 2 community. There's a lot of people I don't like, and I don't give a shit about whether they like me or not. But there's a lot of people I do like, and there's a lot of people that are friendly with me back. And I've made lasting friendships in the game, so I don't think you can say that. You might not like the tone of the Reddit posts I make when someone disagrees with me and they have a bad reason for doing so, or you might not like the responses, the harshness of the responses in a YouTube comment that I leave when someone disagrees with me for bad reasons. But I don't know what that says about my character. So my character would be like, am I morally a good person or not, or do I do the right thing in tough situations? And again, I don't think you know me well enough to make that comment. The likable thing, sure. I mean, yeah, you might have looked at the presentation I have in game and determined that you don't like me, and that's more than fair. Hey, hats off to you if that's what you want. Merry Christmas. You got what you wanted. But on the other hand, there's a lot of people that seem to actually like me and that I get on with and I'm friendly with. So I think that's an invalid criticism too, because the most you can do is anecdotally say that you don't find me likable, and there's plenty of people who anecdotally do find me likable. So, yeah, so I don't know if that's necessarily an objectively valid criticism. It's certainly subjectively valid, but not objectively. So that's wrong. And it's nothing to do with Guild Wars 2, elitism in Guild Wars 2. Actually, it does. It really does have to do exclusively with elitism in Guild Wars 2, because if it wasn't for elitism in Guild Wars 2, you probably wouldn't know about me. And you probably wouldn't have an opinion on me. And you probably wouldn't have any reason to dislike me if what I believe about the game is different from what you believe about the game. If I was an anonymous person who wasn't a quote unquote public figure in the game, and I didn't espouse elitism and improved play, and frankly, let's pause. I don't espouse elitism. Elitism is delusional by its very nature, because in a game like Guild Wars 2, there's really no actual elitists. There's just people. There's at the top tier, you have guilds like Snowcrows, Quantify, etc., who are actual good players, and they're some of the nicest people in the community, and they don't act like they're better than everybody. I wouldn't call them elitists. They're just good players. Below that, you have delusional pugs who have 250 or something like crazy, like 500 LI VG groups. And they're the actual elitists, because they have absolutely no idea what their actual skill level is versus what their perception of their skill level is. And that's where elitism comes from in the game, and it has nothing to do with me or what I promote. I just want to promote skilled and rational play. I want people to play the best builds and play them to the best of their ability. That's what I want. And if that makes me an elitist in your eyes, well, I'm sorry for you. But again, back to the original point, it does have everything to do with elitism in Guild Wars 2. Because otherwise you'd have no window into my soul, so to speak. But everything to do with his character as a human being. Again, you don't know me as a human being. You know me as a YouTuber who posts a YouTube video twice a month. You know me as a Guild Wars 2 streamer who streams Guild Wars 2 3 times a month. That's how you know me. You don't know me as a human being. So you're not qualified to make any judgments on my character. All you see is Reddit posts and YouTube comments. I doubt you actually watch my YouTube videos, and I know for a fact you don't watch my streams, because if you watch my streams, quite a bit of what you say in this comment you would know to be completely untrue. So what you think of my character as a human being doesn't really mean anything to me, because it's clearly based on your own fantasies about what I am rather than what I actually am. All right, moving on. Yes, I acknowledge he's a very good player. I don't know about that, and we'll get into it more in this paragraph. But there's far better players than me. Far better players than me. I don't know what the bell curve of Guild Wars 2 looks like. Most people aren't tremendously bad, and most people aren't tremendously good. Most people fall somewhere in the middle. I like to think I fall towards the small end of the good players, but that's not very special. There's plenty of players that are just as good as me, And I definitely don't. And this is where the egomaniac thing comes into play. I don't consider myself to be a top player from a mechanical standpoint. So I don't. If I was an egomaniac, I think that would be the opposite. I think I would be going around telling everyone I was a good player and claiming I was and making a big deal of it. But really, I've been pretty consistent in that I don't consider myself to be a good player. I'm probably, as far as like the rating community goes, yeah, I'm probably like near the best, but that near the top of like the heap. But that's nothing. Like that's, in the grand scheme of things, that's nothing. Like being like the 10th best warrior in the game or whatever I am, like that's like, what does that really mean? Does it like most warriors in the game most players in the game are just bad. So being like in the top 10% doesn't hardly says anything. Especially when you're talking mechanical ability. I don't know, man. Mechanically, I'm not great. My golem numbers are not great. There's dozens of people that out benchmark me. And anyone who's watched my stream sees that I fuck up all the time. So yeah, like it just makes me feel like the fact that you would say this when it's so wrong, and everyone who actually pays attention to me and watches my streams and watches my videos knows that this is wrong. It casts doubt onto the other things that you say about me. If you obviously don't know anything about the statement about my mechanical ability, how can anyone trust you to know anything about my character as a human being? I think the mechanical ability is very evident. There's video evidence showing how bad I am, or good I am, or whatever I am. There's video evidence of that. And you're wrong. And despite mountains of evidence, you're still fucking wrong about it. So, like, how can we believe what you have to say about my character, which is a much more amorphous and less. There's less evidence for that, let's say. You would consider me the authority on dungeons. Well, that's strange. Whew. I haven't done a dungeon tour in over a year, and before that, I really hadn't done any since HOT came out. So I barely know what the dungeon meta is at this point. I don't know where all the chrono skips are now and where all the portal skips are. So honestly, like I don't know all the stealth spots for thieves. So honestly, I think that that's just crazy. I'm glad you consider me that, but I think you're delusional. That's definitely an out of date fact. You would even say I'm one of the best warriors in Guild Wars 2. I mean, compared to what? Like, I don't know. Like, how many people that are like in elite and like raiding guilds, like let's say that like, okay, we got SC that are active right now, SC, LN, Dungeon Ducks, DNT, like, and then a couple of others like Dips and Crits. Like there's a lot of good guilds out there. Each one of those guilds has like one or two guys who are warrior mains, and a bunch of other guys that just play warrior on the side. And I don't know that. I don't even know that this is true. Like okay, so maybe I'm in like the top 10, maybe I'm in the top 20, but like that's really nothing to say much about. Only bested possibly by Goku and Grimjack. Now I'm beginning to feel like this is like a a troll. Like I'm being memed right now. Like Goku and Grim are indeed both better warrior players than me. But there's probably at least 10 more, I would say. And again, it makes me feel like you don't actually know anything about me, that you would think that. Yeah, like there's probably better warrior players than me in my own guild. So I have a hard time believing that you know too much about me if you would say something like that. You would not call me the authority on raids. Well, what's funny is that you would consider me the authority on dungeons, but you wouldn't consider me an authority on raids. I wouldn't consider myself the authority on raids, but I would consider myself an authority on raids. This might surprise you, but I've beaten every raid boss and done every challenge mode. And there's not many raid bosses where at one time or another I haven't done a record run on. And I feel like you really learn about a raid boss when you do a record run. Like, that's where you really learn the intricacies and the bleeding edge strategies and all that. And so I think, I'm not going to say I'm the authority on raids. There's probably people that know the mechanics of raid bosses even better than me. Probably a lot of people. But like the fact that you would consider me the authority on dungeons but not an authority on raids, that's kind of funny to me. Fractals are I don't fractal. I make no bones about it. I haven't fractaled in years. Or open world. I don't know. I do open world just as much as I raid. So I would consider myself the authority on open world. I would consider myself an authority on open world. I would say there's a lot of people that could consider themselves authorities on open world because it's a very easy thing to get a lot of experience on. It's not a challenge to get experience in open world PvE. There's very little barrier to entry to open world PvE, so a lot of people can have a lot of opinions. But I would consider myself very experienced at it, and I would say that you'd be foolish to ignore what I say. Maybe you can disagree with me, and maybe you have a reasonable position for doing so. But if you just dismiss what I have to say out of hand because you feel I'm not an authority, I think you'd be doing that to your detriment. Nor would I say he is better than experienced on any other class other than warrior. Yeah, I would agree with you there. I have a shit ton of experience on warrior. I think I'm at like 13,000 hours on my account, and like 10,000 of it's on warrior. So yeah, I'm experienced playing other classes, but I wouldn't consider myself a main on them. But I don't know what that means. Like, so what? So because I'm not an authority on since this comment incidentally came from the Condi Tempest video. So because I'm not an Ellie main and I'm not a hardcore Ellie who's known in the community as a top Ellie player, I'm not allowed to know anything about Ellie or make a build about Ellie. That's ridiculous. So that's just a weird comment. Who cares? Who cares if you're not an authority on something? You can still present. Just because you're not an authority on something doesn't mean you can't present good information on it. I mean, there's a ton of subjects where I'm not an authority on them in real life, and yet I might know still a few things about them that could be helpful. So, yeah. He still thinks of himself as a god in every area he has little to no credibility for. Well, that's interesting. I mean, I would like to know an example of me thinking myself as a god. If you have an example of me going, I'm a god of this, well, that would be an interesting quote for me to see, because as far as I'm aware, I'm very realistic about my skill level and my experience and my position on various things. Yeah, so that's weird. I think that's a lot of projection. I think that's what you want to think about me. Going back to your egomaniac comment, I think you want to believe that's me. I think it makes you happy to dislike me, and it gives you, for whatever reason, and it gives and the story, the narrative that you've built in your head is that I'm an egomaniac who thinks of himself as a god. And I definitely don't think that anyone who actually knows me or has talked with me for any length of time would agree with that assessment. So this is an area where I think you have little to no credibility. So it seems odd that you made that conclusion. And then in every area I have little to no credibility for. That's weird because, like, I would be the first to tell you I have little to no credibility for PvP or World v World or League of Legends or CS:GO, and I definitely don't think I'm a god at any of those things. So yeah, that's weird. And I think I do have credibility in raids, and I think I even have credibility talking about fractals, even though I don't do them, because I keep up with what's going on in the fractal community. I don't have to do fractals to talk to people in my guild who do fractals, and to talk to people that I'm friendly with in the community who do fractals to get an idea of what's going on in the fractal meta. So yeah, I mean, I have credibility in that even though I don't do it. So that's a very weird position to take. It's evident in his presentation if you've never had the pleasure of dealing with him. I don't know that I've ever had the pleasure of dealing with you, so I'm not sure how you can make that conclusion. I don't know who you are. You seem to know me, so we must have had some sort of interaction. And I can only guess that whatever interaction you and I had was just as inane and ridiculous as this whole post. So you can only imagine the response you got. And I can't imagine that it was very nice, knowing myself as well as I do. Yeah, so that's weird that that you know me and I don't know you, but whatever. I think to say that Nike deserves a good clip around the ears is probably one of the nicest things you can say to him right now. I'd like to. I guess you're a tough guy, and you're gonna box my ears or whatever. I mean, you're welcome. You're welcome to try. Come on, that's fine. You want to beat me up? That's cool, man. Nothing scares me more than a guy making a physical threat to me on Reddit. That is a fucking thing that's going to keep me up at night. Like, there's really... I mean, when a guy called Cuddles Galore makes a physical threat against me on Reddit, ooh, that's intimidating. So yeah, that's really worrisome, I would say. But, I mean, is that the nicest thing that a person can say to me? I don't know. I think a person could say a lot nicer things to me. I don't understand. I don't understand where that physical threat came from, kind of out of nowhere. So yeah, that's a weird thing. There's plenty of nicer things people can say to me. People can go, "Wow, you have a really nice collection of bicycles," which would be true and a very nice thing to say. Or people could say, "Wow, you seem to have really good." I don't know. Geez, maybe there aren't that many nice things to say. You really know. You really have a good sense of what to order at Chipotle. Well, that would be a very nice thing to say to me, and I would appreciate that. And I think that's probably one of the nicest things that someone could say to me. And what's funny about that is What's funny about that, incidentally, is that I do get, like, private messages and mails in game from people who thank me for helping them somehow, or giving them advice or whatever, or helping them gear their character or making guides that they like. So people do say nice things to me all the time, but you're not aware of that, obviously. And it says a lot about you that's the nicest, that a physical threat is the nicest thing you can think to say to someone. So maybe it's not me who's an egomaniac. Maybe it's you who's a sociopath. And the nicest thing you can, supposedly I'm the unlikable person, but you're the one whose conception of nicest thing you can say about someone is a physical threat. I mean, that's pretty damning for your character. And your character as a human being. So I would take that to heart and really, really look at yourself in the credibility mirror and hold yourself accountable for the things that you say and believe. And don't lie to yourself, because when you're looking in that accountability mirror and and you know whether you're lying to yourself or not. And it's never great to see a liar staring back at you, or just someone who's got some serious mental issues. So yeah, that's weird. And then the last paragraph is sort of about responding to a post above that doesn't really matter. But it says, and it's unfair to hold anonymous player, a random player, accountable to higher personal standards than we do a public figure and representative of the game like me. So just for background, this guy out of nowhere, unprovoked, made a post in the thread basically bashing me for ruining open world by making this Condi build because I'm introducing elitism to open world and saying that I'm a piece of crap. And someone responded to it saying, no, that's not what Nike's trying to do. You just don't get it. And you should like think about what you say before you say mean things. And this guy says you shouldn't hold a random person to higher personal standards than we do a public representative like Nike. Well, actually, the difference here is that random anonymous people on Reddit aren't held to any sort of standard. They can say whatever they want, and the worst thing that can happen is they get downvoted or they get banned from the subreddit and just have to make a new account. So the standard that we hold a random player to is a random Redditor to is incredibly low. I'm held to a much higher standard. I'm a quote-unquote public figure and a quote-unquote representative of the game. There's only so much I can say or do before I get kicked from the ANET partner program. There's only so much I can say or do before I would get actually ostracized by a lot of people whose opinions I respect. So no, unlike a random player, I am held to a higher personal standard. So I'm glad you acknowledged that. It says it's unfair to hold him to a higher standard. It would be unfair to hold him to a higher standard because, but in the end we're not. I'm the one who's held to the higher standard. I could, if I was anonymous, I could say much harsher and meaner things, and be much more brutal than I am. I do have to mind what I say, and I have to mind the level of my reaction, and yeah, so I am held to a higher standard already, and I'm sorry that you're not aware of that, or you don't seem to account it, or in fact your view of that is the complete opposite of reality. In your delusional reality, Cuddles, you feel that a random player is being held to a higher standard of accountability than me, when in fact that person isn't being held to any sort of standard, and I am held to a higher standard. So your view on that is the literal opposite of reality. And again, that brings me to my conclusion. So this standard that we hold people to, literal opposite of reality. This whole thing about me being a great mechanical player, literally the opposite of reality. This thing about me being the authority on dungeons, literally the opposite of reality. Best warrior in Guild Wars 2, literally the opposite of reality. So with all of these things that you've said that are literally the opposite of reality, then we come back to your original statement about me being unlikable and having a bad human character. Considering that everything you've said is the opposite of reality, how can we conclude that this is the one true statement? If everything you've said is literally and provably wrong, how can this be correct? I would say it can't be. And I would say that you, indeed, are the one with a low character and a poor sense of self. And I would offer to help you, but I don't think you deserve it. And anyway, guys, that is it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Raids are fucking toxic, can't you see? And the leader leader of the gatekeepers is Nike DNT.
Anti-Raid Rants was recorded in front of a toxic and delusional audience.